From my last video, I talked about the winner for the Super Mario 64 ROM Hack of 2023 awards show, and I thought I'd talk about the runner-up for it in this video, that being Super Mario in the Monstrous Manor, which is a ROM hack made by MrComit. The story for this hack is that Mario is presented a note that doesn't really give you enough time to read it because it's all within the confines of a cutscene, and that already is high quality in presentation itself. But before the mustachio plumber himself resides a huge manor, given the ROM hack name that should be very obvious, inside the massive building and pass through the broken up platforms and swinging broken chandelier, there's a scientist named Professor T who gives some clarity to the situation at hand. And the backstory is, as he was down in his basement, he had a laboratory where he was conducting research just to have his home become an infestation, a monstrous manor if you will, for ghostly entities and otherworldly beings that are now present and currently responsible for all the paranormal activity and phenomenons that are already clear to see and that will soon to be seen. Now, the last time I played a ROM hack that took some sort of Luigi's Mansion type of inspiration and approach, it was a hack called Mario's Mansion, which was basically a Slender type game and managed to actually spook me a good few times. Maybe too much, but I won't get into that. But unlike that hack, this one is more tame in its execution as well as its polish. Just from the get-go, you got switches to activate doors hidden throughout some rooms, you got high quality pictures of enemies hung up on the walls, and this is just from the first 3 rooms. And upon entering the 4th room, or garage to be more accurate if you're a busybody, you get stopped to have to answer a phone call, just like Luigi and Professor Egad's conversations in Luigi's Mansion. Here you'll get some guidance from this Toad professor with a little story beats here and there throughout your playthrough. And although for the most part you'll be yahooing around and trying to see all there is to see, I can definitely say that you will certainly get lost from time to time. Luckily enough, Professor T gives you a map for the manor that can give you a better idea of where you have to go, but something that would have been way more better here was to have the cursor on the bottom left part of the map just be located precisely where Mario is instead of the direction in which he's facing, because I can assure you, you will find yourself getting lost and going the wrong way a lot of times and having to rely on the map, pausing and then unpausing, making sure that you're in the right room and in the direction that you want to actually go. But for the most part, the rooms that you really want to go to are the ones that have a boo icon, an icon with a yellow face but without the mouth or whatever have you, in the red coin rooms when you find a hidden toad and he gives you a challenge for the rooms that you've already been to just to collect the red coins, and something that's completely optional but to each their own. For the most part, the gameplay is pretty much vanilla SM64 with a mansion ghost story that seems harmless at first, but as you get even further into the madness, you have to start questioning the intentions of the note that led you here and the many wacky going-ons that are taking place around you. While I was playing throughout this hack, I could say it gives a bit of a hybrid between Luigi's Mansion with a dash of Zelda puzzle solving to be had. The most easiest rooms you'll come across are those being that of the boo encounters that require you to exercise a room of these haunted enemies before you can actually defeat the boo residing in said room that's currently invulnerable. And not only do you have to do that, but sometimes it requires you to think outside of the box, like heating up a gas stove just to light up a pan and then pick up that same said pan in order to chuck it inside of an open refrigerator in order to stop some ice bombs from spawning. Disclaimer: do not try this at home or anywhere else, as a matter of fact. Something that's also unique in Luigi's Mansion is the coins you'll be collecting along the way, as well as a ghost multiplier for those defeat all enemies to get to the boo that's haunting the room. I didn't really pay attention to it at first until later on, but it and the coin collecting will give you a ranking at the very end of your journey, so make sure you don't take damage during these segments or you'll end up losing your multiplier points, and make sure to collect every single coin enemies leave behind you if you want to get that better ranking. And speaking of collectibles, unlike Super Mario 64, this game doesn't have traditional stars, but they do have star pieces that turn into 1,000 coins when you've collected the amount needed per floor you're in. And that too will also add on to your score since it is based off of coins. So make sure you keep an ear open for that shimmering noise each piece makes along the way. In truth, for the most part, that's what the game is going to consist of and is basically the summed up version of it. But the nature of how this once sane manor is now reformed by these ghostly beings is a doozy to travel about while collecting keys, both big and small, which I almost forgot to mention. Just feels like more of a reward to see more of what this hack has to offer with each new room you gain access to. Considering on the romhacking.com site it says there are no stars to collect in this hack, I had a feeling maybe it'd be a brief experience to play, but in the end my actual play time could be accurately timed to about 6 hours and some change. Especially if it wasn't for a certain sand square segment that I spent way too much time on just to be wrong in my thinking and ultimately gave up just to find out I didn't need to make an X marks the spots with the sands and instead was supposed to clear the whole sandbox of sand. But you know, what can I say? The picture didn't necessarily make it clear to what you had to do. But as the saying goes, you live and you learn. What at first seemed like it was going to be a mini hack for me was truly a mid-size hack with many twists and turns that can be taken quite literally. You got twisted sights the manor has as a way of showcasing that the mind of what probably now is a mad scientist that has left his journals around, and with each chronological entry his psyche is steadily deteriorating into a loony balloony. You got turns like going from a big mansion to being a tiny man playing with a dog in the backyard trying not to become a dog's new chew toy, or maybe continuing with the theme of being a tiny man and jumping into a whole big toy box filled with tuxie toads spread across the land with their fancy spinning ties vibing around, hopping in place, and some just forever to be stuck in traffic on his continuous morning commute to work. Collecting stars only in this area as if you're a kid trying to play a Lego set of Mario 64, but that's not even the main highlight here, but the means in which you need to get those said stars. Swinging about and trapezing like a man straight out of the circus, you're going through various slides that aren't connected to each other, jumping here and there and hoping that you don't miss the mark, and even going through a childlike Godzilla boss sequence involving playing Jenga tower and purposely losing in order to actually win, and even after each hit having that early cartoons bam wham slam my man, which honestly at that point made me forget how serious the rest of the game actually was, and the fact that during that segment you actually needed to collect some key parts that some boos had broke apart earlier. So it's like, yeah, imagine having so much fun that you end up getting distracted. But in contrast to that childlike toy box, everything crafted in this hack feels well thought out and something an adult thought up, including the exclusion of the typical Mario 64 collectathon of many stars to push through the game, and instead for a more mystery focused and ghost house paranormal story with the many hidden backstory pieces spread around that adds in some flesh to this game as a whole, made this feel unique, even when there are similarities to be had compared to the already mentioned Nintendo titles when talking about this hack. As someone that enjoys to replay the same game mechanics of a 30-plus-year-old game and have it completely different yet familiar in its world building and characters to be had, and just overall throw out the window of that family-friendly vibe Nintendo wants to either keep, not keep, or, given the eShop's case, no fucking idea what it wants to be. I feel the dark atmosphere this hack provided and the dialogue to be had that is within and can be found, or if you're going from that start to finish kind of way of playing, you can easily enjoy your time with this ROM hack. It made me think in a way classic Zelda games make me think, and no, that's not a bash on Tears of the Kingdom in any way, cause I'm not a little me, I want my game my type of way kind of baby. But when a Super Mario 64 ROM hack makes you think so hard you spend like 30 plus minutes playing in a literal sandbox, I think you got something good here. I genuinely think you got something good here. Even though Mario for the most part is vanilla in his controls, the additions that have been implemented give this playthrough that well-deserved, that actually makes sense kind of label to be had. The multitude of rooms to get lost in because you're in a big freaking manor at the forefront of everything. Keys that at first made me think they were more like a all free to use at any door, just to realize the keyhole icon pulsates on the map letting you know that's the key specifically that you currently have. And also a subtle thing that you probably won't notice unless you do have some keys on you, that being the clear picture you have, because the UI is more dynamic and often only shows up when you aren't doing anything, so you aren't plagued by a bunch of cluttered elements on the screen, which for me was never really an issue, but just seeing that does kind of feel more relaxing, but also necessary. Like if you're getting hit, you need to know the health that you're going to be having versus always knowing when you don't need to. But besides my already griped about topic of the sandbox and my overthinking of it, the only thing that feels kind of off is knowing how there's an options tab in this hack, but no proper widescreen. And really, that's the only negative I really had, and everything else just felt like a charming way to increasing the time to be had with this game by making backtracking kind of neat, since it's based off of what you unlock, because the amount of coins being collected, which eventually unlock a radar for the star pieces you most likely will have missed early on, and an indicator for when it's in a room you are currently in. And as I've mentioned already, the Toad Prospector who has his red coins spread about, and even collecting one could either be a mini game of some sorts, like a time collectathon, or a flying coin you have to give chase and corner it in order to actually get it. And just to mention more ghostly stuff, like this hidden yellow Goomba that has 300 coins but lowers the longer you take to kill it. Not only that, but like all the other ghostly beings that really try their best to make sure that you're not going to be able to defeat them, and the various ways that you have to actually defeat enemies that you kind of wouldn't expect could be defeated in Mario 64, but certainly can be when ROM hackers decide to put their ideas into things. Yeah, I never knew you could kill these little cloud dudes, but apparently it's a thing. Maybe just in this ROM hack though. But back to the Prospector, by which that I mean in a quite literal sense, because upon collecting the 8th red coin, the star collected automatically teleports you back to where the Toad originally was, just for the convenience of the player. And man, that's a damn good feature to have too, especially with how big this manor is, and with how accidental I was able to find some of them. From the very start of this hack, I was expecting a small, kooky time just to end up with some existential crisis theming and the questioning of the Mushroom Kingdom's ethics and moralities and how they go about their way of life, especially with the same cat and mouse issue of Bowser and Princess Peach and Mario that has plagued the kingdom since the early days of the Nintendo Entertainment System. There's just a whole lot to this ROM hack that just takes place in this oversized house, and if it wasn't for the final area that locks you out of the haunted manor at a certain point, I definitely wouldn't have minded trying to search for more to be found here for that 100% completionist rating of S+. But frankly, I wouldn't mind playing this again for a second time, and although its replayability isn't on that same effect as Beyond the Cursed Mirror was in that classic Super Mario 64 fashion, I can say both of these ROM hacks being neck and neck for the SM64 Hack of 2023 winner makes a whole lot of sense now. Beyond the Cursed Mirror was a soon-to-be apocalypse. Meanwhile, this game, yeah, I'm gonna need some drinks for that. Maybe not. That doesn't really seem FDA or even morally approved. And although the music wasn't much noticeable for me given the haunted house atmosphere and ambience approach, I can still appreciate the key sound details like the aforementioned star pieces humming with their vibrant light or whatever, the sizzling for when you're close to a hidden coin, and even the jingle for when you do something successfully or something like that, or even when Professor T calls you up, which that actually brings you back from the fun that you're having and makes you kind of remember you're supposed to be helping the poor bastard out and not just having a grand time in his banner yahooing around, since it's him who's being haunted by all these ghosts. Nonetheless, Super Mario and the Monstrous Manor is a good, mysterious, and spooky hack to play if you're able to play it for yourself. And just like the last hack I covered, this too also shares an excellent rating for its console compatibility, so check that out if that applies to you. The next hack I cover will feature both of the creators of this hack and Beyond the Cursed Mirror, so until that video comes out, try them both out. They're both great in their own way. I can't really say what MrComit has in the works next since I'm kinda locked to whatever people upload on YouTube, but make sure to check out his channel for a little more if it interests you, and thanks for watching. Boots by Goomba. Koopa Troopas Pizza Palooza. Oh, I thought that shit said Big Tits Lab. Holy. Big T's Lab. Shy Guy Repairs.